Marek, this full concept of info-activism,
Mm.
when did it first strike you and how?
Well, it didn't strike me. We were thinking of different ways of approaching information and advocacy and campaigning for about 6 years.
Yeah,
I wouldn't say it was a strike. It was basically analyzing how people are using information and what's changed in the last few decades in creating information, maintaining, and then distributing, and then actually creating change
yeah.
using that information. And we realized working with open source and different groups that actually few things changed. That now the speed of information is uncomparable with how it was before. The ownership of information is also much broader, and people are in control.
The owners.
They're the owners. So information goes back to the source, thanks to different tactics and thanks to technology as well, quite often. And also what changed that especially marginalized communities have access to tools and tactics that years before were inaccessible.
Like?
They're too expensive or too complicated, like mobile phones, like the ways you can create maps, the ways you can represent information, the ways you can use design, and so on.
So this information is crucial to the functioning of the NGO sector also.
Well, I don't think there's any other sector that can live without information.
Yeah.
Even if you do very basic services, you need information, and businesses that are winning the competition are using efficient information, and there's no difference if you're civil society or commercial or government. And it's also about power.
Yeah.
And what we try to do, we try to prove that it is possible to sweep power from those who were monopolizing it before, having access to certain tools and tactics, and give it to people who are now either able to subvert those tools and tactics or create their own ways of getting there.
So a camp like this, what does it ultimately lead to? Would you see some kind of process, or would you just leave it to happen by itself?
Well, obviously many things will happen by themselves, and if we were here or not, that wouldn't change anything that much. But I still believe what we do is we speed up network building and exchange of skills and tactics, and we show also that different groups, such as designers, technologies, and campaigners, can work together and can actually work very efficiently together and learn so much from each other. So what we try to do, besides all the learning and talking about information activism, what it is, how it works, and how we can make it better, is to create a social network of people who will follow that path after the camp and invite others and share that knowledge with others and how the network will work. And the thing with Tactical Tech, I think, is we don't want to own that network.
You don't want to own the network.
No, we don't want to own the network. Yeah. The whole thing is we would like to help that network that already exists to grow and to come up with much better ways of creating change in different areas. And our role we see to be in the background and observe the whole information sphere, how the network develops, and coming into equation when it's necessary, where we think we may have some skills, either by knowing many people from different places, getting them together, or knowing that there are certain tools and tactics that needs to be explored more.
It was free software first, and the emphasis is more on information now. Any hint on what it would be next? Any idea?
Next time I'm gonna run a vineyard myself, and very smart people will run Tactical 10, I think, and they decide what they want to do. Seriously, it's hard to say. The information was at the beginning. It wasn't that open source was the first. But what we tried to do at the time, we thought it wasn't a momentum for focusing on information. We thought 6 years ago, 7 years ago.
The time was not ready for it as yet.
It was not ready for that. We thought the time was though ready for talking about open source. And it's interesting when you look at that, because open source brings certain office software, if you like,
tools.
Certain, not just tools, but also certain mentalities, certain ways of working and thinking, and it's all about collaboration, sharing and self-organizing.
Yeah.
And it's very interesting to see that we have people here at this information activist camp that are coming from different backgrounds, and exposing them to self-organizing may be shocking sometimes. And we kind of got it for granted that people just now, they know that the open source is working, and there's also certain philosophy of having access to technology and being power of that technology, not just use it. So that's quite interesting. But 6 years ago, we thought there's a momentum for bringing together technologies working with open source and NGO people. And over those 6 years, we realized that now it's time for focusing on information.
Just to go back to one last question, tell us a little about Tactical Tech, what it stands for.
Well, Tactical Tech is actually Tactical Technology Collective that we established, those two of us, Stefanie Hanke and myself, while living in the Netherlands. We realized that basically there's a certain niche for a small organization that would be run as a collective or as a kind of network. We didn't really know exactly how we were going to do it. What we knew is to act in between techies, in between designers, information creators, and human rights activists. That was our broad approach.
Yes.
And then we come up with certain of methodologies, and we focus on open source because we thought that would be a very good start. And actually, the only way of seeing if techie activists can be merged with activists that are, technophobic,
Yeah.
and see if that can lead somewhere. And that worked really, really well. And we've done many camps and so on. But that's not what we do. Actually, Tactical Tech is not all about camps. We also produce toolkits and guides, which is addressing a bit more generic public, where we study. For us, camps actually is a way of doing a research, where we learn what are the people's needs and how they can use different things. And outcome of that is a set of different toolkits where people can get a CD and a book that describes how we can use different tools and tactics for advocacy, either by using mobile phones or messaging applications, or what are the security concerns and privacy concerns, etc. But it's still not everything that we do. We also try to work on a very local level. We have a number of projects where we work with campaigners directly. And the point is, to merge those three layers, the very generic one, the middle one, which you have at the camp, where you have leaders, change makers, people who are creating networks. And then we also need to check those two layers and what we try to produce against people's needs on the ground. So we try to promote things that are accessible, easy to use, and effective. We don't try to promote digital activism in its superior role that you can only actually use in few countries. We try to show that those things can work in completely different environment, much more hostile and much less filled with any resources.
Thanks a lot.